15 years of video production, I had to deal with lots of vehicles. All sorts of them. I rented, tamed, adapted, loaded, unloaded, pushed, dragged, broke, fixed, washed, painted, and drove most of them. At one moment, when I felt it's time for a change, I was proposed to promote aviation events. I knew nothing about filming planes, but how difficult can it be? It's just filming after all, not piloting. So I came to Belgium, where I met Sam. It was hard to say exactly what this man was doing, but one thing was sure: he is a man with his head in the clouds. Literally, how do you call a pilot with over 30 years of experience who brought 20 vintage planes and their crews from different countries on a rally from Greece to South Africa? Overflying Victoria Waterfall or landing near the pyramids? Or someone who managed to create an international airport for 5 days on the most popular beach in Belgium and gather more than 50 planes for a stall competition on sand, with tides coming in and out twice a day? What about organizing a test drive with electric bikes in his own garden? One day, I heard Sam speaking on the phone about flight permits in Europe and fuel prices in India or Egypt. That is how I found out that Sam is doing ferry piloting, a profession I've never heard of. The idea is, receiving a private pilot license is not too different from a car driving license, except for the prices mainly and the limited number of schools, of course. However, flying a plane twice a week in your own city requires a license and a plane. But flying a small plane from Sri Lanka to Belarus is something not any pilot would engage into, and this is the kind of trips that ferry pilots are hired for. And guess what? Sam accepted me to film the trip. I thought this is the adventure of my life. Little did I know about risks on such a journey. Definitely not as much as I know now. The story starts in Brest, a small city in southwest of Belarus. Igor, a passionate private pilot, and his two friends, businessmen Dmitry and Ruslan, decide to buy a plane in Sri Lanka. The distance from Colombo to Brest is about 10,000 kilometers or 50-60 hours to fly in a Cessna 206 from 1980. So they hired a ferry pilot.
So we're going to fly from Colombo to the bottom of India, to Trivandrum, to enter legally India. From there we fly up past Hyderabad and up to Allahabad, where we can get fuel. We then turn west to Ahmedabad, where we leave India, fly into Hyderabad and Pakistan. We then do a slight southerly turn before going into Iranian airspace, down overhead Oman and into Abu Dhabi, where we take more fuel, another pause. From there up to Bahrain for fuel. From Bahrain we have a long stretch across Saudi Arabia. We stop briefly in the middle for fuel, and then we continue on to Sharm el-Sheikh, now getting into familiar territory to many people. From Sharm el-Sheikh we carry on up to Cairo, across to Mersa Matruh, which is way on the north-west corner of Egypt. From there we have the shortest leg across to Heraklion, in Greece, on Crete, and from there we fly over the Greek islands, over Bulgaria, we land in Bucharest for fuel again, and from there we go straight up over Ukraine without landing and arrive in Brest, which is where the tip of my aeroplane is, just there. And at that stage we enjoy a beautiful and delicious Belarusian beer.
Sounds smooth and easy. Well, these are estimations considering straight lines, ideal weather, strong plane, no technical issues, accurate timing for fueling, welcoming border authorities, and perfect health of the crew. Too many conditions and a lot of external factors, I could say now, after having done it. But let's take it from the very beginning. I arrived to Sri Lanka on February 27, straight from Moldova. I have never been so far to the east, so it was a cultural shock in the beginning. But then I took a local taxi and the shock was not cultural anymore. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Total blackout. Due to an 18-hour trip from Chisinau to Colombo plus the jet lag, I slept the entire day and only at dawn went to visit the neighborhood, therefore met the Indian Ocean for the first time. We lived in Mount Lavinia, 15 kilometers south of Colombo, 10 minutes by taxi from our plane and 5 minutes on foot from the ocean. Sam arrived after 2 days. He met Igor for the first time and also for the first time he saw the plane he was supposed to ferry to Belarus. Before letting Sam fly away with the over $100,000 plane that is still registered on his name, the seller, Sakurai Aviation School, wanted to validate Sam's flying skills, despite those 4,000 flying hours in his logbook.
First time.
Wish me luck.
Good luck. Wish us luck, actually. How was it?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah?
It's a good plane actually.
So is it going to take us to Belarus? Are you sure?
She's going to take us to Belarus. No problem at all.
Are you sure?
Yeah, fairly confident. Fairly confident. She's an old beast. She's not pretty particularly, and it's all a bit rumbly. But no, flies nicely, taxis nicely. It's all good. Does what it's supposed to do. So it should be fine. It should be fast as well. A bit slow with all of us on board and all of our gear and full of fuel, but it'll be fine. It's good.
Igor arrived to Sri Lanka 2 weeks before us, mainly for paperwork, but also for training on this plane, as he will be the second pilot during the ferry flight and the only pilot to operate this plane in Brest. So Sam's validation was done, but we also just got the first serious change in our plan. India and Pakistan had again a big argument and shot each other's planes. It is war up there and by no means we could enter Pakistan in the near future. This means longer flight over water, from India straight to Emirates. And now I learned a new word – endurance.
Как вы остановились на самолете в Шри-Ланке? Все-таки далеко и даже немножко в какой-то мере опасный был перелет.
Да, это даже самый интересный, наверное, момент, потому что кто из моих знакомых в авиации не узнает, они, конечно же, в шоке. И линейные пилоты, и пилоты малой авиации, они просто в шоке, потому что никто здесь с такими целями, как мы, то есть с целью покупки самолета, не был. И почему мы на это решились? Да потому что Cessna 206 это довольно-таки непростой самолет с точки зрения покупки. Он пользуется большим спросом, это довольно-таки универсальный самолет. Мы рассматривали несколько вариантов в Европе, Германия, Венгрия. Все они были или гораздо дороже, или же состояние нас не устраивало. Мы рассматривали варианты в Америке, аналогично, тем более, что доставка из Америки, наверное, не намного проще.
And the initial plan did not even consider a war zone on the route, so yes, Igor's friends might be right, it is a crazy plan. Remember the Endurance? Well, the flight over water from India to Emirates, according to the new plan, is about 10 hours. That is about 3 hours longer than endurance of this plane, which means the distance it can fly with full tanks. And this is how I learned what a ferry tank is and what am I supposed to do besides filming. I was officially appointed as the cruise fuel dispatcher, and I am supposed to refuel the plane in flight. I was now really questioning my decision to participate in this adventure. The water is warm, but there are sharks. We are flying close to the Pakistani shore, but there is war. Sam gives assurance that there is nothing about this trip he would not have done before. I believe he knows something I don't.
Для чего нужен Ferry Pilot? В первую очередь не для того, чтобы управлять самолетом. Нужен огромный опыт именно в стыковке вот этих сложных моментов по получению разрешений. Получение разрешения от ВВС, получение виз, получение разрешений на транзит в составе экипажа, получение информации по наличию топлива. Здесь нужен человек с большим опытом. Я надеюсь, что мы его нашли и мы справимся теперь.
We are now on the last preparations, including the ferry tank, bureaucracy, plane service, fueling, and we should be ready to fly by tomorrow. Last details are being discussed between involved parties.
As a requirement, PIC, pilot in command, need to get the clearance, security clearance from National Intelligence Bureau. Proceed is we send our details to Civil Aviation Authority and they will send through the Ministry to Minister of Defense.
Yes.
Minister of Defense doing the security clearance. In case of foreign pilot, they send details to your country and they check with the police and they will send here. That is the normal. It takes 3 to 4 months. That is to get the clearance. That process takes a long process. That is right. But this case now we are trying, but I think both of you have the police clearance.
Sorry, long story short, these guys can solve a 3 months issue in just 3 days. That's strong. It is Friday though, and this new document, Sam's clearance from CIA, would definitely not be issued during the weekend, so we are not departing before Tuesday, the earliest. Taking advantage of the rest of the day, I went for another sightseeing, and Sam went to the hotel to reschedule the arrivals and permits for India. On this wandering, I encountered two main preoccupations of Sri Lankas: religion and cricket. On Sunday, continued my discovery trip and I went to Colombo. Initially googled for the biggest Buddhist temple in the area, which was closed today, but the taxi driver who charged me 10 euros for a 1.5 hours trip brought me to another one, but Hindu. The temple was opening at 4 o'clock, so I had several hours to visit around. The biggest difference between any church I've ever been to and this temple was the noise and the colors. They both seemed too loud for me, in opposition to the calm and harmony that Oriental religions represented in my mind. In the meantime, I found out that Monday is a big Hindu holiday, Mahasivaratri, which is one of the public holidays for Sri Lanka, therefore no chance to get the permit, at least one more day of delay. I was heading to Mount Lavinia in a very grateful and peaceful state of the spirit. The delay has some advantages, I must admit. The big day has almost come, so we read our prayers, crossed our fingers and went to Sakurai for fine adjustments before a challenging trip.
We need fuel in the fuel tank.
Now?
Yes. Now, we leave it for a few hours and we check
Okay.
there's no leaks.
Okay.
But we need it to happen now so that we have time.
150 liters, right?
150 liters, exactly. Really important, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah? Thank you.
The technical staff was all around the plane, which was a good sign in my opinion. But what do I know about plane business?
I've just found out that the aircraft hasn't actually been paid for yet. And so it is fairly obvious that they don't want to let it go until it's been paid for. The second thing is that my security clearance has come through, but nobody's telling us that. And then the third thing is, so we've very clearly asked for our clearance departure to be tomorrow, so Wednesday the 6th. And I've just seen paperwork confirming our departure for Thursday the 7th, but nobody's told us about that. So there are bigger things going on behind the scenes, but we'll get there.
Процесс не дешевый, конечно, но нам бы хотелось, наверное, все же не спеша получить надлежащую инспекцию, сервисное обслуживание перед полетом. Я не склонен торопиться с этим. Еще остались небольшие формальности по разрешениям. Я думаю, через день мы будем уже готовы. У меня есть такая определенная уверенность, что через день мы будем готовы.
In fact, Igor was not sure that Sam is going to get his validation so quick and only transferred the money on Friday after our arrival and Sam's test flight. Following Igor's optimism and the wishful thinking strategy of Sam, today we arrived with all the luggage again, hoping to take off. But there is nothing you can do against someone who is waiting for $110,000. The game seemed to be even bigger than we imagined.
So Sri Lanka is under various sanctions, very few, but various sanctions, particularly to do with military equipment. And although our aircraft is not and never has been a military one, aircraft obviously are on some sort of list as being potentially usable for military purposes, which I guess is true enough. So somewhere in the system somebody has flagged that this needs to just be checked, that it is actually okay and it's not a sanction busting exercise. So not surprisingly, the seller is saying you can't leave with the plane until the money's actually in my account, because it could get sent back to Belarus, and if that happens, suddenly you end up with both the plane and the money.
It was another day lost and nothing we could do about it. I decided to go for another discovery tour, this time out of Colombo. Went to the train station, bought a ticket for what I was told to be the most touristic destination and hit the road. The city of Gale looked nothing like Sri Lanka we've seen so far. I felt like somewhere in the old part of a European city, which is a result of the colonial history of the island. It took me some time to understand the fuss. Then I was told it's cricket. We are in the middle of the student championship and tomorrow they have a big match. It was Thursday and I was almost sure that we will spend the weekend in Sri Lanka, but I promised Sam that I'll be back on Friday, so I will keep my word and leave this nice city tomorrow morning. Everybody is busy with their course. Our routine was to wait. At this moment we were already on our last day of this trip according to the initial plan, discussed and agreed with Igor.
What's the updates for today?
The money is going to arrive any moment, and we're going to go flying to India.
Is it a promise, hope, or professional intuition?
All of those and a few more things as well. It's a wish, a prayer, a beg, a borrow, a steal. It's everything it needs to be.
Igor, what's the update in your opinion?
Money is 2 days in Sri Lanka. We know it exactly, and the accountant confessed it. That the money is 2 days in Sri Lanka. But they don't release us until money is on
their account.
And I agree with Sam, it is a good mindset. Money can come and we will go, but we are not 100% sure.
The afternoon turned to be a bit cloudy and rough. Igor has to face a radical change of the plan, and these changes will cost him money first of all, but also some more time before he'll get his plane home.
I prefer to be paid to do what I'm supposed to be doing, but this situation is absolutely not in my making. It really is, and I sympathise hugely. I've done nothing wrong. I've tried as much as I can, and I've done. I think that, if I may, the fundamental one is the money should have been sent 2 weeks earlier, 3 weeks earlier.
Igor wants to pay only for the flying days, but this is not convenient for Sam, 2 weeks at his own expense. And secondly, Igor accepted me on board in exchange for a discount on Sam's daily rate. 1 commercial flight to Colombo, 1 bed, some meals and a bit of extra costs on fuel based on extra weight. Mathematically, a good deal for him. Since the project got out of control, these collateral costs increased and Igor would like to renegotiate.
550 это билет стоит улететь из Коломбо в Брюссель и потом вернуться в Коломбо к 26 марта, когда уже у него по его графику все получается назад. И вторые 950 это он выставил за оператора Дмитрия. Потому что, я его логику могу объяснить только так, что якобы сорвалось все из-за нашей вины, то есть мы не вовремя оплатили. А что там, как это, не его проблема. А поэтому он должен этого Дмитрия увезти и привезти. Поэтому он выставляет еще и за Дмитрия 950. Вот такая вот.
За Дмитрий, конечно, вопрос такой жестокий. Почему? Потому что это неправильно. Мы его не наказывали.
Я тоже считаю, что спорно считаю, потому что это его проект, а не наш.
Eventually, they reached a compromise, which meant full rates and no more discounts. This was it for now. We leave the plane and go back home until the end of March. The money arrived on Sakurai's account a few days ago, but the game seemed to never stop.
The seller of the Cessna 206 asking if we could also ferry a Robinson R66 helicopter from Utah to Sri Lanka, which of course we can, no problem with that at all. However, they wanted it done immediately and they asked if we would delay the ferry of the Cessna 206 to achieve that. To which I said, no, our first client. We need to get his aircraft where it needs to be first before we start looking at moving other aircraft around. And then there was some complicated paperwork which suggested that our movement of the Cessna wasn't going to be possible until the helicopter had already been moved. So we had to make a bit of a stand at that point and say, no, we're not going to move the helicopter until we've moved the Cessna. And at that stage, related or unrelated, the paperwork came through for us to move the Cessna. So I'm pleased to be able to announce that we can move the Cessna and then we'll look at moving the helicopter a week after.
So here we are, back to our routine. We kind of missed these guys and they definitely missed us. Sam has reserved 9 days this time, 6 for the flight, 3 for contingency. The plane has been taken care of. Igor had his last training. The fueling was done. The crew is in good shape, so everything should be ready for departure. We arrived yesterday and we hope to take off today, but then we find out that things are not that easy.
So we were contracted as Prepare to Go to check into the route for ferrying of an R66 from the US, from Florida, across to Sri Lanka. We always ask $1,000 in advance. It makes sure that the people who ask us to do the work are serious, but they get the $1,000 back if we then do the ferry. So it's a good way of making sure that if someone is serious, they pay the money, and if they're really serious, we then also do the ferry. But in any event, we then do the work. So they agreed that, they sent the money, we did the work, came back with how long it was going to take, and on the back of it, they went, oh, no, that's far too long, it's too many hours. We'll put it in a ship instead. Fine, no problem at all. Peace and quiet for 10 days, come out here, the day we're supposed to leave, they turn around and say, no, because we're not ferrying the aircraft anymore, we'd like the $1,000 back. Well, did you not see the email where it clearly explains that, yes, but, well, yeah, but, no, but, yeah, but. Anyway, the long and the short of it is, of course, they do understand that. So neither legally nor morally is there any leg to stand on. We did the work. And in fact, actually, you could argue that we saved them tens of thousands of dollars by not doing the ferry and putting it on a ship. But anyway, he wants his money back.
On the other hand, the seller's people blame the bureaucracy for our delay. Weekend ahead, nothing has been solved. Igor is obviously pissed off and Sam's tight schedule has become an issue again. Assuming that we take off on Monday, which is unlikely, we still do not manage to get to Belarus and have Sam arriving to Brussels on April 6 as he planned. Everything is ready and we don't feel like spending 2 more days in a hotel, so we decide to visit a place that is on Sri Lanka's must-see list, Sigiriya. After convincing Sam that making this trip on bikes would not be a good idea, we rented a car and moved on. The trip to Sigiriya took more than 7 hours for 170 kilometers. It better be as beautiful as in the pictures, but we'll find out tomorrow. After a very deep sleep, surrounded by the relaxing sound of local nature, we woke up early in the morning to visit the site before unbearable heat comes over. Sigiriya is an amazing spot, the ruins of what looked to be a breathtaking garden with many lakes and beautiful landscape design. The main attraction is a 200 meters high rock where one of the ancient kings of Sri Lanka has built his castle in the 5th century. The name is derived from a big rock named Sinagiri, the Lion Rock. Sigiriya today is a UNESCO-listed World Heritage Site. It is also declared by UNESCO as the 8th wonder of the world. The long way here was worth it every second. The way back seemed easy, so we decided to deviate a bit and visit some true Sri Lankans. We knew this would take 1 more hour, but compared to the amount of wasted time on this journey, 1 hour means nothing. I think this weekend was a good rehearsal for the long trip ahead, with us stuck together in a small plane for many hours and days. While I was thinking about the elephants I just saw in their almost natural habitat, Igor and Sam discussed secrets of flying and ferry piloting. The tensions from 2 days ago seem to have vanished. Would be nice to keep the spirit. New day, same place. No big expectations, but Sam is supposed to discuss with Igor a new schedule and a new plan, as the initial plan is less and less viable. Before he managed to do this, Igor rushed in with a proposal.
If this weekend were mostly my expenses and it were mostly for the film, why not to do a compromise?
I pay for the car. I pay for the fuel. I pay for the transport. I'm not going to sit in a hotel endlessly.
If we have to get together
Igor,
touristic days,
many
without
times.
absolutely without any work.
So we were talking yesterday about the offer from the Emirates. This ferry had gone perfectly smoothly. We arrive, we fly, we do it. All perfectly smooth. You have a huge advantage. Agreed. Much cheaper than the Emirates offer. Now it starts going wrong, you want to pass some of that cost on to us. Would it change anything if we just sat in the hotel and not gone anywhere? Why am I in Sri Lanka right now? Why am I in Sri Lanka yesterday?
I understand. I understand.
And if you understand, you understand. Whilst I'm here, I'm paid.
The weather is extremely hot. The plane is ready, but the documents are not. We are back to exclusively business relations, and the business relations do not seem to work very well. It is a 150,000 deal after all. You must keep an eye on bills.
I'm not worrying about your desire to pay. I'm beginning to get to the point of worrying about your ability to pay.
About my ability to pay. I'm a crazy man here who has come in without money.
This is costing thousands and thousands and thousands.
Yes. Just how
I wish it wasn't, but it's got nothing to do with me. Igor, you can do it on trust or not if you like. If you want to keep the opportunity that I give him $1,000 immediately during the meeting, you can give it to me now and I'll give it back to you after the meeting. If you prefer to say, okay, we go to the plane.
We don't have clear the situation.
Fine.
Even this situation was not clear. But we
Igor, look at your emails, please.
Among other things, Igor blames Sam for the $1,000 issue and our delay, but Sam considers it a matter of business rules and worries that if accepted, it might encourage more similar requests. Nevertheless, each day of delay is costing Igor money.
You want to release this one, right? I've been trying, but only thing is this chairman, because of this $1,000, he said he cannot give the aircraft to you. That is the only thing.
If I break it down, your chairman is saying that if we pay him the $1,000, we can go tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the message.
Yeah. He said, yeah.
So all the other problems are either solved or can be solved.
All solved, and now I can do the 100% assurance. I personally know, in the early morning I will, by 10, I will arrange the customer.
You can guarantee this.
Yeah, that's what I guarantee.
You mean, put you in presence of...
So, what's going on?
So there was a bit of a negotiation, but Ryan and Lee, what we're going to do is there's a last document that when they give us that document, we will give them $1,000 and we take off 3 minutes later, in theory. We'll wait and see. And Igor, he did mention that there's going to be a bill for the customs guys as well, so just watch out for that.
This is because the fee for customs is nothing.
Okay, good. I hope you're right.
Despite the promises, we start a new day with even more issues to solve than yesterday, so we are now waiting for the customs to come and check us out, but suddenly they need some changes to be made by the insurance company, which is in Belarus.
What's going on?
Well, I don't know about that, but I've just heard that a friend of mine's just died in a plane accident. Oh, good guy.
It would be confirming, or it would be explaining, or how could we call it? Explaining?
Okay. My suggestion was that I write it.
But it is Russian and
He needs to write it in English.
explaining. And he doesn't understand English.
Then
Or
even
not-
better.
not-
All he has to do is take my text
Okay.
and send it from his email address with his signature at the bottom. And trust me,
This was my idea.
yeah, because if you send it in Russian, they're just going to say it's in Russian.
Sam's window for the ferry is expiring again, but Igor wants the plane taken from Sri Lanka by any means, so they agree to take the plane to Egypt and then go for a new break. Egypt because we get cheap parking for the plane. Sam's experience and relations seem to pay off again. While waiting for the customs, we do our last preparations, assuming that tomorrow we take off. Sam does some safety instructions to us, especially to me. As an outsider, you don't really consider certain situations until someone explains them to you in detail, and then you realize what you are about to do.
It's very rare that you go from perfectly okay to major problem instantly. Normally there's a build-up. Maybe there are some engine lights that come on, maybe there's a noise, sound, something has happened first. If we land on the ground, we could end up upright on our side or upside down. If it's on water, it is almost certain we will end up upside down. It's then going to do this in all directions, okay? Expect it, it's going to be much rougher than you realize. Just hang in there, don't move. Wait until it's all stopped moving. It could catch fire, okay? The fact that we've got a nice, beautiful landing and it's all okay, that's fine, but we still, seatbelts, get out, walk away and go, right, where are we, what are we doing? These are very good at crashing. They absorb impact very well. And also, with apologies to Igor, I'm not bothered about saving the aircraft. I don't care if we end up going into a tree at 30 kilometers an hour. That's fine. It'll destroy the aircraft, but we will be fine. The aircraft is insured. Our lives aren't. At least they are, but not usefully. So it's about us, not about the plane. Sorry.
Though we got a written confirmation of our release for $1,000, new amounts pop up in discussion, and we find out that Igor needs to pay $2,000 for the customs officers to come to Ratmalana and check us out. Official tax, they claim, but we are sure it is part of the game, and there is no way we could skip this payment. Suddenly, the fuel gets also 50 cents more expensive. You pay once, you keep paying. That's how it seems to work here. Cleared, paid, fueled, loaded and ready to go. We were supposed to take off in the morning, but suddenly the Indians cancelled our permits. It took a few hours to reissue them, but we are finally off the ground.
Forum Alpha Sierra Delta, cleared Nagpur via Alpha 465, 7,500 feet, Squawk 7371.
Clear to Nagpur, Alpha 465, 7,500 feet, 7371 the squawk for Romeo Alpha Sierra Delta.
The first leg to Nagpur should be about 7 hours, mainly overland, or at least along the shore. It is also the leg where we'll test the fueling system. We have to make sure that it works properly, and it should be done overland, in case we need to adjust it. If it fails over the ocean, we are definitely in trouble.
So we are a little over an hour into our first flight, so we've left Colombo heading for Nagpur. We're level at 7,500 feet. Igor is flying his new aeroplane, which is all very exciting. It got a little more exciting a moment ago when we tried to do our in-flight refueling, and we may or may not have a leak from the tap. So certainly there was some fuel coming out. So we'll take a bit of a pause on that. We're going to try and change our operating system for it and see if that solves the problem. If it solves the problem, then great, no problem. If it doesn't, then we're going to have a bit of a think on firstly this flight, but then also subsequent flights on how we're going to do our fuel plan.
This fuel leak is not good news for our tight schedule, so if it keeps us on ground at least half a day, we won't make it to Egypt as planned. Time for another attempt.
Right fuel gauge 2/3 or below.
Correct. Yes.
Fuel select to left. 3425 SRILANKA 128 today.
Check.
Fuel lines clear. Open yellow tap. Plug in electric cable.
Yep.
Switch on.
On. Red light.
Express 515 proceed direct cam. The pump works. No leaks. Direct cam go after power. Good luck to us.
Okay. Give us a 5-minute warning, please.
Okay, I will.
The Cessna 206 has two fuel tanks in both wings. The pilot can choose which tank to use. The Ferry tank is connected to the right wing. We fly on right tank first. After consuming about half of the tank, we switch fueling of the engine to the left wing and refuel the right one. This procedure is basically meant for one specific leg, tomorrow, India to Emirates, about 9 hours and at least 6 of them over water. We arrived to Nagpur after 8 hours, longer than expected, but with the Ferry tank aboard and working, quite a relaxed flight. Igor was complaining about $2.5 for a liter of avgas in Sri Lanka. Now $4 is the minimum you can get it for in India. At least we finally touched the ground in a different country. It was a long day, but the big challenge is still ahead. We only had a 4-hour sleep, as the leg of erosion is quite long and we want to get to Emirates in the daylight. Despite our attempt for an early takeoff, we were delayed about 2 hours. Next stop is Ahmedabad, closer to the shore. Our tanks, including wings and the Ferry tank, have a total capacity of roughly 600 liters. Since the distance to the shore is about 4 hours, we need to refuel before engaging over ocean. Fueling and customs procedures for leaving India took more than expected, plus the delay in Nagpur, so we take off at 14 instead of 11 as planned. Sam does not want to fly in the night, but this is unavoidable today. Estimated flight time to Emirates about 10 hours. During the takeoff, we get some bad news. Because of the military activity at Indian-Pakistani border, we have to fly south before going west, adding to our already long flight. And that means more fuel consumption. We need to save fuel, so Sam decides to go up 16,000 feet, where we use the oxygen masks that we prepared but hoped we'll never use. The fueling system works well, so we should be fine, though tight.
Romeo Alpha Sierra Delta, contact tower 118.0, have a safe landing.
We arrived to Al Ain in the Emirates after 10 hours in the air. I have a terrible headache because of hypoxia, but the most complicated leg of our trip is now behind. Somewhere above Oman, we had to completely dry out the right tank, and what we measured in the left tank after landing was enough for just 1 more hour of flying. Good to be on the ground though. We still have to refuel and then go to sleep. Tomorrow it should be an easier day. After so many days spent in Sri Lanka, this country seems to us hyper-tidy. Yet an obsessive thought crosses my mind and stays there for a while. Everything around us is kind of fake, and the green life is artificially maintained in a place where it should not be. It is Saturday, the streets are empty, and that makes driving to the airport very enjoyable though. As the entire city, the airport of Alain is organized to the very smallest detail. Our flight is on the list and we seem to be in a delay again. Flight plans, customs procedures, payments and takeoff to Bahrain, our next destination. Igor is the PIC today, pilot in command, which means he is the one to communicate with the control towers and do most of the flying on the next leg. The takeoff was pretty rough and wavy, but the sandy landscape looked really impressive. After the rough takeoff, we had a shaky flight but still bearable. The landing though was a bit too hard, and I'm not sure Sam was as excited as Igor was.
Что самостоятельно выполнил полет из Эмиратов в Бахрейн, сам с помощью Сэма вел переговоры на маршруте, сам взлетел, сам сел, несмотря на сильный боковой ветер. Конечно, я рад, очень рад. Дай Бог, чтобы у нас все дальше так продолжалось хорошими темпами после нашего застоя шри-ланкского.
I have the same hope, yet the long pause in Sri Lanka felt safer, honestly speaking. I realized there will be more takeoffs and landings like this on the route, as Igor has to get used to the plane before we arrive to Belarus. We refueled, got new batteries for my sound recorder, drank some iced tea and headed for Saudi Arabia. While flying at 10,000 feet above the hostile and depopulated Saudi Arabian landscape, I keep looking for answers.
We have approximately 18 minutes by gliding before we hit the desert. Now normally 18 minutes might give you a chance of finding an airport. Fairly clearly looking out of the window, there aren't any airports anywhere near here. So what that does is just give us plenty of time to set up to try and find a nice flat area of sandy desert. And if we can see a house or some sort of shelter or car, then we can do it next to there, but otherwise we just land in the middle of nowhere. But very survivable in these conditions. We just land as slowly as possible. The airplane will bounce around a bit and it might even be badly damaged, but it should be a very survivable accident. And then using this, we call for help. And they're probably quite quick. I imagine there'll be a helicopter here within an hour and a half actually. So this is, by a long degree, not the most dangerous part of our journey. So although it looks a little bit inhospitable, it's actually, relatively speaking, a better place to have a major problem than certainly over the sea.
Reassuring, I'd say, and the landscape looks now beautiful, if I think better. Saudi Arabia is the most unpredictable destination from Sam's stories. First of all, he said they are reticent to filming usually, so I should be very discreet with my cameras. They asked me to erase the card of a camera attached to the wing, but did not notice the camera on top of the plane, so I still got some footage. It took almost 4 hours to process our arrival, and what we thought to be hostility in the beginning turned out to be just confusion. These airport's operators have never processed a crew with 3 different nations who normally need to get visas in advance, and none of the crew members is coming from the country where the aircraft is registered. I kind of felt compassion for them, even though they've forbidden me to film, and Saturday did not make it easier. Some good rest will do for now. We took off from Saudi Arabia later than planned, so now we are again behind the schedule. The green spots on yellow sand were quite a view for us, and that is how agriculture looks like around here. Overflying Saudi Arabia in general is quite an experience, with flat desert becoming beautiful mountains and camels walking underneath. First destination in Egypt was Hurghada, a touristic area that we only went through for fueling and customs formalities, as our last destination is a small airport where we cannot register entering Egypt.
6 October is just on the outskirts of Cairo. It's actually very, very near the pyramids. So if we're lucky, we might get a great view of the pyramids as we fly into 6 October. We'll see. Clearly, if the visibility is like this, we might not see very much at all, but fingers crossed.
If we kept straight, but we didn't. It would have been a nice story to tell my kids, but in this case we would not make it to 6 October, which is a day airport. So we had to ask for permission to deviate straight to our destination and arrived just before it closed. After landing, we were hoping to get straight to the Cairo International Airport and fly home, but the earliest flights for me and Sam are next morning. Now we are heading to the hotel and tomorrow we leave for a 2 weeks break. Igor is going to stay here longer for parking bureaucracy. On my way to Egypt, I kept thinking of the missed view of the pyramids and hoped that we could catch up on next flight, but I never expected this. Our hotel is actually right next to the pyramid site in Giza. What else could you wish for a nice story? Maybe a visiting tour, but this time we are here for other purposes. In every country we stop, there is one agent who makes things easier. Our agent in Egypt was George, or to be more accurate, Gergis. Sam stayed in the hotel to do the paperwork and Gergis drove me and Igor to the airport to fuel the plane for tomorrow. I must admit I was a bit sad for not being able to visit the pyramids, but I missed flying too, so now I'm hardly waiting to continue the trip. The morning started beautifully, though a little bit slow. On the way to 6 October, Gergis tells us more about the country, the 10 million population of Cairo and the empty buildings crowded along the route. It took some time to get to the aircraft and then some more time to get clearance for the takeoff, but the weather is perfect and we are ready to leave the African continent. This last phase is supposed to bring me home in a few days for Easter vacation, so I'm looking forward to reach Brest and then Chisinau. First, we stopped for checkout formalities in a small airport on the shore, El Alamein, and now heading across the sea to Europe. Goodbye Egypt, goodbye Africa.
Lima Golf Sierra Tango as flight planned, exit point Tanza, 100, flight level 3357 squawk.
First destination, Crete. Here we check into European Union and do the refueling. The fuel operator was busy with a commercial jet and this delay puts in danger our departure. The airport is closing soon. Sam seems to know the fuel operator. He was here in 2016 when, prepared to go, Sam's company organized a Crete to Cape Town rally. Actually, we met Sam's friends in almost each country we visited on our route. We had to convince the traffic control operator to stay overtime in order to check us out. Though quite late, Sam still wants to fly this last leg to Bucharest, which is about 4.5 hours. Suddenly, we lose the intercom. Something went wrong. We get a lead signal that indicates a battery problem. Sam decides to deviate, and the closest airport is Santorini. Strange enough, I don't feel any fear or panic, rather some kind of concern that I might not make it home for Easter. In quite a short time, we lose the radio communication completely. On the ground, we got an engineer to look up the problem, but it was certain that we can't fly further on. The engineer found some loose cable and put it back in quite a bizarre way, using some tape, then asked for $200. It is decided to make no tests until morning to spare the battery, which was not charging, seems like. We need to buy a car battery to connect the backup emergency radio we have. According to Sam, if we manage to turn on the engine in the morning, it will fly. But having the radio is crucial. Radical and risky solution, but none of us had a better one. We might need technical assistance, and this can definitely not be provided on the islands. Despite our skepticism, the loose cable seemed to have been the problem. It works. Next, Bucharest, Brest, Easter holidays. I wish. After less than 1 hour of flight, we lose the battery again. Emergency landing in Kavala using the backup radio to safely get us on the ground. The chances to have here an engineer with expertise in Cessna 206 seem to be directly proportional to the chances I would be at home for Easter. The engineers of the aviation school fixed properly the loose cable, which was not the problem in fact, and proposed to charge the battery so we can fly to Athens for proper service. While waiting, using the battery we bought yesterday and the battery from an airport car, we managed to turn on the engine. After only 2 hours of charging, we asked the guys to bring back the battery. Now, the miracle time. After installing the battery, they find out that our alternator was actually loose and the strong vibrations of the engine prevented the belt from tightly rolling, therefore it was not charging the battery. If we had this issue on the over-ocean flight with night landing, it could be close to fatal. Luckily, we are safe, and 10 more minutes later we are ready for the takeoff. Bucharest, next destination. We are not allowed to land in Brest after 7 p.m., so we have to rush. While enjoying the views, we get deviated due to some military activity in Bulgaria. Just training this time, but 120 kilometers west is definitely more than we can handle. Taking the emergency landings, we do not have enough fuel to reach Bucharest with this deviation, so we ask for permission to land and fuel in Sofia. Permission granted. In the meantime, Igor's partners have to negotiate our landing after 7 in Brest, otherwise we stay in Sofia overnight. Igor kind of feels almost at home. Everybody speaks Russian around. Dmitry, our contact in Belarus, finally confirms we can land at the Brest airport in the evening, so we take off as planned. The route over Romania is really breathtaking, and we kept quiet for a long while, veiled by our own thoughts. I'm happy to be home for Easter, looking forward to share with my kids what I've seen and learned in the last weeks. Igor is certainly overwhelmed with this final phase of the trip, and probably he'll step on Belarusian ground as kind of a Columbus who's been away for a long while. Sam simply wants to get the job done and be back to Brussels. It took us almost 2 months of adventure, tension, thrill and even danger, but we became a sort of a gang, the 4 Romeo Alpha Sierra Delta gang, conquering one country after another. This plane is going to change its call sign, and from now on it will carry crazy skydivers, romantic lovers or rich tourists, but none of them will ever know what it is like to fly this small plane for 11 hours over the Indian Ocean, or how Nile looks from above, how Saudi Arabia grows vegetables, or which is the 8th wonder of the world. It was definitely the most dangerous trip I've ever made in my life. I learned a lot about aviation and even more about myself. But now, 30 minutes before the landing, I wish we would be again in Sri Lanka, ready for the first takeoff.
Брест вышка, 4 Ромео Альфа Сьерра Дельта, добрый вечер. 4 Ромео Альфа Сьерра Дельта, Брест вышка, добрый вечер. Следую маршрутом София, Брест.